Hello, welcome to Metro Television from our studios at Laboni in Accra, also on DSTV channel 277. This is our 30-minute news break. It's one of our many news platforms where you can bet to get the news first, also on DSTV channel 277. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, government braces itself to mitigate expected crisis in the health sector as declared by the Ghana Medical Association enters day 5. Meanwhile, ongoing negotiations resume on Wednesday. Are doctors demanding too much for their conditions of service? Was the leaked document ethical or justified to give the public a better perspective about issues? We'll hear from a labor expert. Nurses at the Accra Psychiatric Hospital begin sit-down strike today. Meanwhile, the Coalition of Unpaid Nurses and Midwives issued August 23 deadline for payment of all arrears. Nana Akufo-Addo's lead counsel in the 2012 presidential election petition flawed in the Korle-Klottey primaries amidst acrimony. Also ahead, Electricity Company of Ghana begins nationwide meter inspection and mass disconnection exercise in a desperate move to block revenue losses. And watch out for one of U.S. hit telenovela series, Rosa Diamante, which has begun airing on Metro TV. Details momentarily. Hello again. I thank you for joining me on Newsbreak. And I am Ignatius Ano. Let's settle for the news now in detail. They began by withdrawing all outpatient services. This week, they are intensifying their action by pulling out emergency services too. The Ghana Medical Association is poised on crippling the public health sector to put pressure on government to meet their demands. But are they really justified taking into consideration the leaked documents on their demand? The following desk report summarizes the very latest on this strike action.
A leaked document gives clear indication that the demand by the Ghana Medical Association is outrageous. For example, clothing allowance is 30% of basic salary, book allowance 30%, 20% of basic salary for fuel, professional allowance is 50%, 20% for vehicle maintenance, call duty facilitation allowance is also 20%, and up to 100 gallons of fuel a month, among others. The Ghana Medical Association has declined comment on the document but accuses government of breaching an agreement to keep details of the demand secret. Some doctors at Kolebu, Komfanoche and Efiankwanta teaching hospitals and other regional and district health facilities have joined the strike. But Metro News sources say many are still at post, especially in the 3 regions of the north and parts of the Volta. Meanwhile, the Health Ministry has issued a directive to mitigate the impact. All heads of directories are to remain at post with non-striking staff to ensure there is continuous emergency services and manage patients on admission. A statement issued also directed that all emergency rooms should remain open and coordinate referrals, while managers of various public health facilities must collaborate with quasi institutions including the military and police hospitals. The ministry also said the ambulance service must remain on standby across the country. It urged the public to remain calm and assure them of frantic effort to resolve the impasse.
So we've been speaking to labor expert Austin Game, who thinks that the negotiations, which will resume on Wednesday, should cease while the doctors are compelled to return to the work.
And thank your noble viewers. Obviously, the strike action is most unfortunate and regrettable. They should not have even begun the negotiation in the first place, especially so when one side had declared strike even before the commencement of the negotiation. That perhaps put government or the employer in a disadvantageous position. The submission made by the unions is not may sound or may look outrageous, that doesn't really matter too much. If they were to be open to the negotiation, perhaps regardless of the differences, they could manage it. And if they have difficulties, obviously they have to go to the National Labour Commission for a resolution of the matter. But before even the commencement of the negotiation, they had declared strike. That is the most unfortunate part of it and very difficult to appreciate.
Mr. Game, how unfortunate is that, especially when behind the scenes the leadership of the GMA had extended some kind of invitation to government even before they declared the strike? So one would say that they cannot be faulted.
Yes, they still have to be faulted because that is not the way to go about negotiation. If you have submitted, they have not submitted a proposal at the time they were talking. At a point in time, we all saw on your screens that both sides came to some understanding and exchanged documents that they were now going to prepare and begin the negotiation. At that stage, there was this gun loaded and announced to all of us that, look, if by 29th of July you don't complete the negotiation, we will declare strike. That was the day the employer should have equally, written to the National Labour Commission and say that we are going to begin negotiations, but already I'm being threatened because that violates Section 1273 of the Labour Act. They should not have said that at all. Granting that they have said that, the employer should have reported it. And therefore, they will have a serene atmosphere, regardless of the outrageous nature. Some people are claiming that their condition of service proposals look like they could manage it. But most unfortunate and regrettable, they started the negotiation with a loaded gun in their hand.
There's a document that is out in the public domain. Originally, that wasn't supposed to be so. It was supposed to be something that is between the employer and then the employees. What do you make of the content, the demand of that document that the leadership of the GMA is obviously unhappy about?
That should not constitute part of the difficulty they have at all. It is obvious that they submitted some proposals. Granting that somebody, by some means, brought it into the public domain is also a regrettable thing. It shouldn't have been done in the first place. But the standing negotiating committee that is made up of the employer and the union, is the key. And so behind closed doors, they should continue with the negotiation without a reference to whatever has been brought to the public domain.
Is that easy to do? Is that easy to do?
It has nothing to do with the negotiation itself.
I'm asking, is that easy to do, knowing very well that you're going on a negotiation table with somebody that you might think you've lost trust for because something that was meant to be private is now public?
Well, the reality is that the public are the people who are going to be paying this bill at the end of the day. The public, even though they should know something about this, the means to know it should be done in an appropriate way. I am not in agreement with the thing being put in the public domain. I don't. I also do not want them to waste their energy and time on that which has been put in the public domain. They are supposed to stop what they are doing, stop the strike, go and sit down and continue with the negotiation. If they have difficulties, they should move to the National Labour Commission for assistance. But the angle they are coming from is completely out of gear. The point is that by the constitution of this country, the doctors have no right, and any other person does not have right to contribute in taking somebody's life. And so not attending to the sick parties, people who have gone to the hospital. You are working towards taking somebody's life away from him, and the labor law frowns on that. And in a civilized society, we don't need that.
Okay, Mr. Game, finally and quickly at that, on Wednesday, negotiations are resuming. What should be the posture of the employer, that's government?
Indeed, I must be honest with you. If I were to be the employer right now, the negotiation must cease. They should all march to the Labour Commission immediately for the Labour Commission to intervene and request the doctors first to stop, to denounce the threat. And then they can all go to the table on equal footing so that the negotiation will commence without anybody coercing anybody into submission. And the strike, their owner must cease immediately. They must return to work, and then the leadership must continue to negotiate. Otherwise, then they will have to advise themselves the best way forward.
Right. I appreciate your time. All right, so Austin Gamma is a labor expert speaking to me on that strike, which enters day 5 by the Ghana Medical Association early on. Let's still stay on the health front. This time round, the Coalition of Unpaid Nurses and Midwives has issued an August 23rd deadline for payment of all arrears, else they will grind health service delivery to a halt.
Don't take advantage of doctors' actions. Never. We've never done it before. We nurses stand on our own. We stand on our own. We have our association. We have subgroups under the association. So we're not taking any advantage over the doctor's strike or doctor's action.
So why now? I mean, obviously one would say that it's because there are so many strikes on the health front. That's why you're also threatening. No,
not really. Just that we ourselves as a group, we gave ourselves an ultimatum.
Right.
We had meetings behind us after our press release statement we had in October 29th
of last year,
2014. And then after the release, we met the release of the press statement. We met the authorities at Ministry of Health, whereby they reassured us that they are going to pay our arrears and then paid our salaries, and also make sure that they put in measures to prevent any reoccurrences in the future. To date, as we speak now, our junior colleagues, nurses and midwives have completed. They have been employed, and then this year, still they are facing the same challenges, similar challenges that we faced. Those who completed, who started work in 2013 and 2014, were paid only 3 months' salaries, remaining with the rest of the arrears unpaid till date. And then when we went with them, we had a negotiation with them, they told us that we should fill something we call the arrears forms, which is not supposed to be so previously as compared to previous incidents, but they gave excuse that they want to eradicate ghost names and the likes. So we agreed, we didn't complain. We filled the forms and submitted. And to date, we don't know we haven't had any good news.
So from the last time you had contact with government was after you issued a press statement threatening that you're going to go on strike if they don't pay your salaries.
Exactly. We are going to take action because right now we have today till 23rd of August 2015, and the margin is so wide for them to intervene.
So if you don't hear from government, for instance, within the next 2 weeks or so, what would you do? Honestly,
we are going to take actions that may hinder the healthcare in Ghana here.
What particular action would you take that would grind the health sector to a halt?
My brother, before that, always the government directives and then policies force we nurses to take actions that makes us look like we don't love the country we are in. Sometimes when you take such actions, we go in our rooms and we cry because the patients we are living outside there are our people, our friends, our siblings. But we have no option. But the situation we are in now, some of us even went for loans. And to date, our loan agencies are threatening us, others are harassing us. How can you have a stable mind? Because as per WHO definition of health, they consider the mental aspect. So how do you expect...
Instability to produce.
Exactly. How do you expect a nurse whose mindset or the psychological health is unstable to care for somebody who is sick?
Right.
It never happens. That's why always the media and then the public complain that nurses we don't smile, we are always frowning and the likes. These are all contributing factors.
But your salaries are not always paid.
We are always frustrated.
Right.
We are always frustrated.
Thank you. That's Douglas. All right, so a passionate Douglas Edufoko there, speaking to me earlier on Newsbreak. You're still watching Newsbreak. It's live on Metro Television. More stories when I return. Stick around. Hello again. This is Metro Television. It's live from our studios at Laboni and on DSTV, channel 277. And this is News Break. With me, Ignatius. And let me run by you some more stories. A clinical nurse specialist, Kukujani, is warning that the lack of funding to support the psychiatric sector will soon throw the country into a major crisis. The forensic specialist spoke passionately about the acts of Charles Entry, who is facing a 10-year jail term for attempting to assassinate the first man of the land a week ago.
What I'm saying is that we have to look at the perspective, from the perspective of a forensic work. We are hearing stories from the mother, we are reading stories from the newspapers as to a 37-year-old man who probably has huge mental health issues. And if he's threatening to kill the president with a gun, and he's mapped it all out and he's made moves like that, then he's a very dangerous man. You really need to categorize him as a forensic client. He needs to be investigated by the chief psychiatrist to take data assessment and make a proper diagnosis of this man.
You have practiced for more than 25 years in the UK, right. Trained in nursing and psychiatry. Right. What aspect of psychiatry do you suspect Charles Entry may be suffering from?
It falls directly within the psychiatric environment, but within the forensic setup. The forensic generally means that you need to use scientific methodology to investigate a crime. You know, you have that in general medicine, you have that in psychiatry. And with this particular case, you need to use those methods to make those assessments so that you do not, in the unfortunate incident after 10 years, when it's released, it causes another mayhem and will be found wanting again. For him to come out again, you really have to have a setup within the psychiatric environment that makes a proper assessment that these grandiose ideas of somebody who sounds like a schizophrenic, the delusional ideas, are not there anymore.
Granted, what he had wanted to do was not a proper thing, but do you support arguments that the legal system of the country has not been fair to this client?
The legal system has been very fair. Anybody who is a risk to the president, especially the president, you know, we don't have to make arguments about it. First of all, make sure the president is safe. And then secondly, look at this gentleman and take historical backgrounds. He's traveled around, I understand, to other countries. He seems to have evaded the net for psychiatry. So we need to capture him, track him, investigate him, and find out exactly what is wrong with this man.
We've had the family, ever since the sentence was handed down to him, speak at length about the fact that he's had problems of mental illness in the past. It brings to mind whether or not we should be faulting them now at this particular moment. Why? Because they did not help to get him into the secluded area that he has to be, that secured environment that he needs as a patient who is suffering from this disease. Is that a fair thing to call for?
Well, you know, parents and relatives are always, almost invariably, at the low end of the job. They don't understand what is happening to their parent or siblings or a relative. And therefore, it is the system that has to capture these guys. And they are very difficult clients. Schizophrenics are very difficult, especially the deluded ones. You know, and he might probably refuse to even see.
But the family is the primary support.
Yes, the relatives and family are very, very supportive in these issues. But like I say to you, it could be a very difficult client, especially when you tell them they should seek treatment. They tell you, no. I mean, God has given me such tremendous powers. Who the hell are you to tell me I need treatment? They are so psychotic, they do not have an insight into their illness. And that is why you need a specialist like a chief consultant or a consultant psychiatrist to go and do the assessments and come out with a proper diagnosis.
As far as the Mental Health Act is concerned, and then it brings to mind the kind of structure and system that we have in this country. I'll give you a good example. You move into the capital city and you see people who are mentally deranged on the streets. Obviously danger to people who are around. What are we not doing right?
What you're not doing right is not spending enough money in looking after these clients. You have an institution or the psychiatric the department, the authority has been set up. It needs funding. When you go to the Accra Psychiatric Hospital now, it is not an interesting place. It's more custodial than a hospital. Sanitation is poor, there's not enough medication, staffing levels are poor. Everything that you look for in a hospital is poor. And therefore, how do you look after these clients? I think the money is that you spend in general medicine. You must make equal amount of money in psychiatry so that we'll be able to look after this disadvantaged.
Should we be worried about the repercussions on national security?
Yes, you should do. In every country, you have about 3% of the population not well. Every country in the world has a small percentage that is not well. That is what probably God gave us. Within this population, there are people who fall within the forensic environment, who cause acid, who cause murder, who rape, and all sorts of heinous crimes. You have to be able to capture them and keep them in a very safe and a secure environment. I understand there is an environment being built. I'm not sure whether that is finished yet, but it's important.
You talk about the fact that that's what God gave us. I would disagree with you because psychiatry is not a good thing. God won't give his children something that is not good. It brings to mind the spiritual implications to this. Can we look at that bracket as well?
Yeah, but if you don't use scientific methodology, you will not be able to get to the end game. It is the nearest to the truth. If we live on voodooism, we live on calling our gods to come and save us, and you don't medicine is science, and it's the nearest we can get to helping people in medicine. I mean, why don't you look at general medicine? General medicine is full of science. The same thing with psychiatry, and that is what you can do. You can also pray. You can, if you believe in your fetish priest and you think he can heal you, and he does heal you, fair enough. I don't have a problem with that. But essentially, majority of people who suffer from mental health need medicine, need psychotherapy, need ECT, and all sorts of treatment plans that you have in this country.
Sports is next.
Welcome to the sports news. Our attention is on Ghana's Super Clash, and rivals Asante Kotoko pushed Hearts closer to relegation following a 2-1 defeat at the Accra Sports Stadium on match day 25 of the Ghana Premier League.
Sit down and sing all they can. All I can hear is I rose. The goalkeeper for Kumasi Asante Kotoko, but I see the substitute.
Rubinyan, who expertly take penalties for Hartlepool to miss that one. Shot now, and it has been scored. Kumasi Asante Kotoko take the lead. Amos Ripong. That is Kotoko. Dead. Watch the corner kick again. Well taken. Amos Ripong just out jumping everybody. Boom, and that's it. Look at the MTN Cup semi-final game, and of course that's going to be Okemenyo. And definitely Hartlepool to have Inusa Musa scoring. They could have.
We're still talking about football, but let's turn our attention to the English Premier League. And holders of the league, Chelsea, failed to lift the Community Shield as they lost to FA Cup winners Arsenal by a lone goal.
Well, normally doesn't deserve to win. I have to go in your direction and say that the best team lost and the defensive team won. In my opinion, is a team that defends very well, a team that leaves their philosophy in the dressing room and change their attitude and their philosophy and accumulate 10 players behind the ball all the time and play all the second half with 9 players in front of the box. This is football. This is very good tactical organization, and in that perspective, they scored 1 goal. They deserve to win. Congratulations to them.
Naturally, Wenger laid down an immediate riposte to refute Mourinho's claims.
I believe it was an intense game where we scored the first goal. After that, you could see that two teams played with full concentration, full commitment, and maybe in some parts.
And that's it for sports. I am Akosia Adeamu.
All right, and that's how we'll end News Break, which came to you live from our studios at Laboni in Accra, also on DSTV channel 277. The news team will join you again on News at 1 for the latest news of the afternoon. And I am Ignatius Ano. I thank you for watching.